I'm working at Center for Fathering, and so I do get calls from fathers asking for help with their children.
Yes.
And one particular call, there was this father who called the office.
Yeah.
I answered the call. He
Uh,
was having difficulties with his 15-year-old son,
yes.
and his son was basically showing a lot of aggression,
Mm.
hostility, banging tables, slamming the doors, being rude and rebellious. And so he was basically asking for help. What can I do to change his behavior? And my first question to him was, how's your marriage? So he was surprised. He said, what does my marriage got to do with my son's behavior? I said, well, I'm just trying to eliminate, different possibilities about what it could be causing your son to behave this way. And I'm sure it didn't happen overnight, right? So, yeah. So it took a while for me to persuade him to finally tell me, all right? And he was a little bit guarded at the beginning, and so he said, "Well, yeah, we are doing okay, but we do have quarrels, we do have conflicts."
Mm.
I said, are your conflicts a little, can be a bit hostile, and
Mm.
he said, yeah, So I said, well, it didn't happen yesterday, right?
Mm.
Yeah, it started a number of years ago. I said, yes. So maybe about 5 years ago, he said yes. So your child was about 10 years old when, he began to experience, witness, the conflicts between you and your wife. And I think the problem started there, all right? He began to feel anxiety, he began to feel his world is shaking, not as stable as before. He began to lose some sense of security, and that causes him to be stressed and confused and anxious. Yeah, and so today what you're seeing is all these manifestations or all
Yes.
these mixed emotions in him.
But sir, as you mentioned, whether the marriage at the home front, all right, uh, uh, children, teenager, they are concerned for their parents, for their family, all right. They do want to have a happy home, right? Even though they may say that, you're too irritating. Sometimes teenagers say those things, but yet deep down, I believe they are concerned. They may love their parents even. They may not feel love, or they may not question whether parents love them or not. I think that's one of the psychological impact, especially when parents fight and the sense of divorce may come out, and they may fear that, oh, parents are going to reject me, they're going to, and they may not feel love, but nevertheless, let's not speak about they are concerned, but there's a tension over there. I love you, but I hate you. Why do you have to do this to mom? Why do you have to do this to Jack? Now that is so when you do ask that question, to that father, right? How's your marriage? I think it is a important aspect to kind of explore. Yeah, yeah, and sometimes we see our teenage behavior as unrelated to our marital issue, but I think all things, in my belief, are all connected in that way. Let me give you another possible example. All right. Maybe it's true. You may say that, oh, me and my wife quarrel. All right. We fight once in a while, but we are generally okay. We love each other. And that is a sincere statement. We're not thinking about it. We never talk about divorce. Maybe years ago, we did fight, we did shout, we did raise our voice. For that matter of fact, I mean, a little bit of self-disclosure. Sometimes I also have argument with my wife, right? Can raise my voice too, right? But children, especially if they don't have the emotional and cognitive capacity, even a single episode of great conflict, great tension at home, it impacts a child. It may not be a recurring things that happen every other day or every other week, but here's an impact on the child in a very mysterious way that we, as parents, if we don't pay attention, we may not know. And I guess if there's a tip all right, that I can offer is that I think we need to be a little bit more mindful about the kind of environment we create, the kind of emotional temperature we set at home. Husband and wife will definitely have their own differences, but what kind of emotional temperature we set at home? We try to set the right temperature, but sometimes we turn the temperature up a bit too high, a bit too hot, and it affects our children. It may be one time off, but let's come to the place as a family that we know how to repair those moments. We have an environment that we can communicate and talk about it. We have environment, son, daughter, my girl, how do you feel when just now? Give the open space for our kids to talk about it, so that when their voice is given a voice, there's a chance to clarify, express their emotion, and hopefully that reduces the pain and the anxiety or the fear, whatever that might be. And I guess some marriage, maybe good marriages, maybe like for example the father, we've only fight once in a while, we still love each other. But in the eyes of the child, if there's no opportunity to talk about it and how that impact, even if there's a once in a while impact, they may go away with unresolved wrong idea and wrong emotion and feeling. Yeah. So I hope I'm making sense. So for those of us who are listening and you have a good enough marriage, you're not thinking about divorce. Think about your conflict, how that impact your children. Yeah.
I totally echo what you talk about the environment at home.
Yeah.
It's like, when a plant is growing, the environment affects the plant, right?
Yes.
Different plants require different types of climate, different types of temperature, humidity, amount of sunlight, and things like that. But the temperature does not stay constant unless you're in a greenhouse.
That's right.
So it fluctuates. And the fluctuation actually does good things to the plant because it builds resilience in the plant.
That's right.
So likewise, I think what we are communicating to parents is that we are not expecting you to maintain peace in your home constantly. It's okay to have conflict, but I think what you said is very important. When there is moments of tension in the home and the child picks up, the emotional vibes from those tension, it affects them.
That's right.
There's always a place, and you need to create a place where the child is allowed to talk about it, encouraged to talk about it, to process, to make known how it affects them, how they feel about it, and also then to receive assurance that everything's okay.
That's right.
Yeah. And so that child will be able to put that aside, okay, and not carry that burden with him or her continuously.
That's right.
And that becomes a chronic source of stress.
Correct.